Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I want to welcome you to the October GCLS Virtual Series event, A Stroll Down Memory Lane, the history of the GCLS. Now, if you run into technical issues, please log off, then log back in. This usually resolves most issues. This panel today is sponsored by Bywater Books.
Remember the first time you saw yourself in a story? Someone who looked like you. Someone who sounded like you. Someone who hurt like you and dreamed like you. Someone who loved like you. Stories are powerful. They allow us to explore different worlds and to imagine better endings. They teach us to remember, and they illuminate a way forward. They offer comfort in sadness and hope for tomorrow. They show us that we are valued, that we are never alone, that we belong. Stories enrich our lives. Bywater Books and Amble Press. We are all stories.
Bywater Books, thank you so much for sponsoring this panel. We appreciate your support. So let's go ahead and get started. I hope that you enjoy this event. I would like to turn things over now to the moderator, Georgia Beers.
Hi, everybody. Happy Saturday. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're joining us for this wonderful stroll down memory lane, a history of the GCLS. My wonderful panelists today are all people just like me who have been members of the GCLS since its inception, since the very beginning, which I believe, if my math is correct, is 17 years. So that's kind of crazy to me. I have bios for everybody that I'd like to read to you, and I apologize, they are on my phone because I have a bunch of different pieces of paper going on, but I did not print these out. So here we go. And panelists, as I read your bio, why don't you click on your video and your microphone and join us here. KG McGregor is a proud product of the Xena Warrior Princess fan fiction community, who's been a member of the GCLS since the beginning. It was at that first GCLS conference in New Orleans in 2005 that she cornered Linda Hill and said she wanted to be a Bella author. Very brave.
Hi, everyone.
27 books later, she calls that the best decision she ever made, and she has not missed a conference in 17 years. Patty Schramm is the Goldie Award-winning co-editor of Blue Collar Lesbian Erotica with Verda Foster. She and Verda also co-edited Women in Uniform, Medics and Soldiers and Cops, Oh My, and Women in Sports. Her first novel, Soul's Rescue, was a finalist for the Ann Bannon Popular Choice Award. Patty is a retired paramedic and currently resides in Europe with her wife, Sandra, and their kitties. Hey, Patty. Retired military, Mercedes Lewis now writes mostly poetry and short stories. Her published works include Glimpses of a Fractured Soul. I love that title. Our Happy Hours, Women in Uniform, Medics and Soldiers and Cops, Oh My, again, and Roses Red, Sappho's Corner Poetry Series, Volume 3, the award-winning poetry anthology. Mercedes is a former director of membership and a former director of events for the Golden Crown Literary Society.
Hi, everyone.
And last but not least, Lynn Ames is the best-selling author of 17 books. She is a 6-time Goldie Award winner, a 2-time Lammy Award finalist, a Forward Indies Book of the Year Award finalist, a Writer's Digest Book Awards honorable mention recipient, and winner of the Ann Bannon Award for Popular Fiction. Lynn was an original member of the Golden Crown Literary Society, and she served on the board of directors from 2005 to 2011. Welcome, my friends. How are you all? Is everybody good?
Great to see everybody.
How's your Saturday? This is awesome. We've got a whole bunch of people here. I'm so excited. Make sure to keep your eyes over on the chat box in case anybody is saying anything. And then, as Carlene said, if you've got questions, stick them in the Q&A box. I will make sure I keep my eye on those during our conversation and grab them when I can. So first and foremost, let's start with something easy. Do you remember? There's going to be that, so maybe not so easy. Do you remember how you first heard about the GCLS? Lynn, do you remember how like you were suddenly made aware of this new organization?
Somebody volunteered me to help with the original mission statement kind of stuff and so forth, knowing that I had a background in public relations.
Okay. And KG, what about you? Do you remember how you heard about this newfangled organization for Just Us?
Not specifically, but at the time, several of us who were writing fan fiction in the Xenoverse had gone to something called BardCon and BardFest. And when those two organizations stopped putting on their conventions, we all looked around for something new, and the GCLS was promoting itself and getting off the ground, and I was there.
Patty, how about you?
Lori Lake made me have a membership card. She said, it's only $10, you have to join. It's interesting, it's important, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay.
All right.
That was May of 2004.
Yeah, right.
And I still have
when
my
we were all
membership
babies.
Exactly. And I still have my membership card.
That's awesome. Mercedes, how about you? Do you remember?
Still got mine too. Oh, yes, I remember. I fell out of the biggest closet, as I like to say, and read Karen Callmaker's Making Up for Lost Time. Wrote her to thank her for writing, that book, and someone who looked like me and a lot of aspects. And she invited me, and I went, that's for writers. But she said, come on. So I came and we went and we're here. I haven't missed the conference either.
Perfect. So, so you guys, you've heard about this new organization that's just for women loving women writing. And I think there was a lot of fan fiction at that time, and a lot of people came from the fan fiction universe. So you hear about this. What makes you go, yeah, okay, I'm going to join this? Like, what did you hope to gain from joining this organization that it was brand new. None of us really knew where it was going to go, what it was going to be about. What were you hoping when you signed up and you got that membership card? Patty?
I was hoping to learn more about writing and to meet other authors, because I was just itching to meet somebody else, because I'm in this little tiny 3,000 population town. I figure I'm the only gay person here. And I just wanted to meet other people that were like me. And like KG was saying, the bar, and we needed a place to go. We needed a place to talk to each other. And it was just perfect.
Lynn, what were you hoping to gain with the GCLS?
When I first heard the idea for the GCLS, I thought, well, that is just perfect. It's just perfect because, we didn't have the language to say women loving women fiction at the time, but it's what we were talking about. And, the idea of getting together with like-minded souls, both writers and readers who cared about the things that I cared about. I mean, to me, that was an amazing idea. And how else would we do it if we didn't have something like this? It was just, perfect timing, perfect storm. And I just couldn't wait to jump in.
Mercedes, how about you? You were more a reader at that point, right? This is like, you didn't start writing right away, did you?
No. Although Patty Schramm was hounding me for years. I was writing, but they were the little limericks and poems. I don't know if you all remember that I used to do after each con about what an exciting adventure it was. I went because on Southwest at that time, you could have as many suitcases as you wanted. So I had a suitcase for clothes, and a really big suitcase for books of all the back catalog I bought since running into Karen's book. And I brought them all, and you all had carpal tunnel, whatever that's called, signing my books.
I do remember you hauling around just stacks of books to be signed.
Oh, yeah.
This was also
great.
Yeah, and it was also kind of pre-Kindle, like not so far before it, but like not everybody had a Kindle or an e-reader at that point. KG, how about you? What did you hope to gain when you decided you were going to become a member?
Well, as you all know, writing is a pretty lonely occupation. But the beauty of this occupation for me is that we have this fabulous community that we've built together, and we needed that community. And so, like I said earlier, with the other organizations kind of drifting away, we needed something to hold on to keep everyone together, because we had all met, we'd all been together in person, we were all friends, and no one wanted to lose that. So GCLS really gave people like me a home. And I got to see so many of the same faces and so many of the friends. I mean, I've made some beautiful friendships in this community, and they were cultivated in GCLS.
Amazing. And it's so funny because I sit here moderating this panel, and I have literally known all of you for close to 20 years, which is crazy to me. I see you maybe once a year, and we'll take 2020 and just remove that from the equation, but 20 years almost I've known you people. It's incredible. It is incredible. All right. So you joined the GCLS, you've got your membership card, you've booked your flight, you've reserved a hotel, and you've headed to New Orleans for the first conference. So talk a little bit about what you expected and what it was actually like, and if those were different, or like, what did you have in your head when you were sitting on the plane or in your car or however you got there? And then what was it like when you were actually there? Tell me a little bit about that first conference. Mercedes, you go first.
I was expecting to meet all those beautiful people that I was reading about in the book. Can you hear me? Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. And in fact, I did meet all of those beautiful people, but they were not the outwardly portrayed beautiful people of some of those books. Okay.
In what way? Explain that. Explain what you mean by that.
In the beginning, everyone was beautiful. Everyone was either Zena or Gabrielle or some off-take of that. Everyone was health and, everyone was young, including myself.
Story.
Yeah.
So I went expecting to see all of that eye candy, and it wasn't happening. But then it started happening because I found out Lynn Ames wasn't as tall as she looked on those stairs. I found out Georgia Billies was taller than she looked in that headshot, and I just started appreciating the inner and outer beauty of everyone. And so,
that's very cool. That's very cool. KG, how about you? What'd you expect and what was it like?
Well, I think my first reaction was just reaction to the surroundings. I will never forget that Chihuly chandelier in the lobby of the Renaissance Hotel in New Orleans. It was stunning. But I had been to conferences for work, and when you walk into this giant hotel, you go into this cavernous ballroom, and there's a dice at the front and booming microphones. Here we were having a conference talking about lesbian fiction in rooms that were no bigger than my living room. And it was so cozy to be sitting there next to people who were there for the same reason I was. And we all just felt like friends. We packed around the tables for lunch. The tables were practically touching, big circular tables, and you could hardly pull the chairs out. We were so packed together, but we were all there for just a common purpose. And the kind of the physicality then of it is what I remember most, everyone being so close.
We found our tribe.
Yeah. Patty, how about you?
Well, to be completely honest, I had no idea what was going to go on. I'd been to many conferences for work, as most of us have probably had been at some time or other, but I didn't know anybody. I had only read 2 lesbian books at that point. I didn't know anybody. I recognized KG because we'd met at the Bard Fest previously. I think I met 5 people out of the 100 and some, maybe we had 120, 130 people come. So I was completely in awe, and you would maybe not believe it, but I was kind of not very chatty.
What?
I was afraid to go. I wasn't talking to very many people. I volunteered to like be a timer at the sessions, and that was it. I just sat in the back and I made sure the session was on time, and I was like very kind of anal about it because I was afraid I didn't want to mess it up. It was my first time and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just sat back and enjoyed everything. And I kind of liked all the tables being close together because then I kind of got to like listen in on everybody's conversations and start to kind of know people and see how people are reacting. And I think I got the feeling that everybody was as excited as I was. I might not have been running around and being all jubilant and things, but I was super excited, and you sort of had that feeling, and it was very intimate, not in a bad way. It was very, very intimate, and I don't think I'll ever forget that.
I completely agree with you. I remember that, and I remember those tables being packed close together. Lynn, how about you?
You know, it will surprise nobody on this panel, but it might surprise others to know that I don't really like crowds. I get very uncomfortable with a lot of people. But that first GCLS, I felt at home. For maybe the first time in a large group of people, I felt like I belonged someplace. I felt like I was part of something bigger than me. And it was just such a warm, welcoming feeling. It was like coming home. And I've never experienced something like that in a group that size, you know, in an environment like that. So you asked what I felt like sitting on the plane. Trepidation would be my answer, for sure. But once I got there, all of that went away because it was just such a warm, welcoming place. Everybody was on the same level. Everybody was excited to be there. Everybody was ready to celebrate this world that we had created. And that, you know, is like lightning in a bottle. You can't recapture that.
Agreed. All right. So this is a two-part question, and I want you to be very honest. I want you to be honest, and I will be honest as well. Part one of this question was, were you starstruck at all by anybody? Because I was, and I remember being very careful to not follow Karen Callmaker around like a little puppy, except I think that I kind of did. And part two, do you remember meeting each other? Because I remember meeting KG, and I was sure that she hated my guts for no apparent reason. I just was sure of it. So, Lynn, you go first.
So honesty, was I fangirling over anyone? You know, I'm too shy to fangirl. So
okay. What about in your head?
In my head, was I fangirling over anyone? It was really cool for me to meet people whose work I'd been reading for a long time.
Exactly.
So some of those longtime writers, you know, to see them and to know that their words had helped me over the years, and to meet them in person was very cool. But honestly, I mean, I came from a world of celebrities. So for me, that wasn't the thing. It was more of a joy at putting faces to names and personalities to words on a page. You know, that was really a cool thing. And Georgia, I'd already done a book signing with you. You and I did our very first book signing together at a Barnes and Noble in Ithaca, New York.
Ithaca, yeah.
I'd already met KG, and I'd already met Patty, I think, maybe. So, I mean, there were faces that were a little bit familiar to me, but I'm sure that, you know, I probably didn't say a word. I probably just sat back and watched, because that's what we authors do.
Patty, how about you? Were you starstruck? And do you remember meeting the rest of this panel?
No, and some. I wasn't starstruck because I didn't know anybody. And I was starstruck in the regards that forever I wanted to be a published author. I just wanted to see my name on a book sitting somewhere that people could pick it up and buy it, look at it, whatever. So I was kind of starstruck in the respect that I saw all of these people that were authors, and I started putting books to the names. And I think I went home with quite a hefty suitcase after that first conference, because I really hadn't been exposed to lesbian books at all. Mm-hmm. I remember meeting KG in a parking garage in DC, because Michelle De La Rosa was helping you to know where to go to the conference. Do you remember that, KG?
Yes.
That I remember. I don't know why that sticks in my head, but that one sticks in my head. Mercedes, I think, just flew into my life with some magical moment. I have no idea. Georgia, I don't remember when I met you officially. I just knew who you were because people go, "That's Georgia Beers," and I go, "Why, yes, it is." I didn't understand I was like, "What's the big deal?" Somebody said, "That's Lynn Ames." I go, "Well, yes, it is," but I don't really understand why that's exceptional. And then someone said, "Ann Bannon's here," and I went, "Okay." And I was thinking there was a follow-up to that, but there wasn't. So for me, there was no real fangirling because I didn't know who the hell anybody was.
Right. Mercedes?
I was seriously and probably will always be fangirling. I am first and foremost a fangirl and not ashamed of it.
Go you.
You should not be.
From picking up that first Karen Callmaker book to finding out who the publisher was and going and ordering pretty much the whole back catalog. I don't know if you remember, Georgia, when we sat, I think it was in Atlanta, in the hot tub with our feet in the water, and people couldn't remember the titles of their books or whatever. And Karen would go, "Just ask Mercedes, she knows." I'd rattle off all of Linda Hill's books and like, no, you're forgetting one. So yes, I've been a fangirl. I'm that girl that made, well, not made, she was very kind to do so, make Radcliffe walk around the hotel with that great big pink and brown bag of books. She's got all this muster going on, and she's walking around with this loud pink and brown bag of books that she had to sign for me. So yes, I was a fangirl. And what was the other part of that question?
Do you remember meeting the rest of the panel?
I remember meeting them. I don't remember exact circumstances.
Okay.
I met you all, and then I had moments where an individual, I guess, relationship formed, like the hot tub, or like finding out, looking for somebody's name, and I'm standing right next to them because they're going by their pen name. Like, because I came out of the gate volunteering and all of that, so and was pretty good with faces. So I remember meeting everyone. I just don't remember. Don't ask me which con, which date, and which specific time.
That's hard. That is hard.
But if I dig back enough in my archives, I'll probably find a limerick about it.
Perfect.
Tell you.
Nice.
KG, how about you? Were you starstruck by anybody? And do you remember meeting the rest of us?
Well, I remember, coming from the Xenoverse, we began publishing our books with really small presses, vanity presses. We were self-publishing, and going to New Orleans that first year, we met the real publishers. We met Linda Hill at Bella Books. We met Radcliffe was getting Bold Strokes off the ground then, and so we felt like we were kind of hobnobbing with the pros. I remember meeting specifically Karen Callmaker. Ooh, that's Karen Callmaker. Jamie Clevenger. I just read her debut book, and she was there. I also remember sitting down at, we had a signing session, and I was sitting down signing some copies of a couple of my self-published books, and I sat down next to Jean Stewart, who wrote The Wizard of Isis and all the Isis series. And she looked over at me and said, "I read that Shaken series online. I didn't like the second one so much." And I thought, Jean Stewart read my stuff. I just wanted to fall out of my chair. It was such a big thrill. So yes, Georgia, I do remember meeting you, and I didn't like you. You were smart to pick up on.
I knew it.
And Patty, yes, I remember you from the Bard Fest days in DC. I remember that in particular. Lynn, I feel like I've known you from the very beginning. We were at BardCon together.
We were.
And Mercedes, I don't remember exactly when I met you, but you've just always been there.
She's magic. I'm telling you, she's magic.
Yeah, she's just like woven into my history.
That is a great way to put it. You've just always been there. That is true. I feel the same way about you, Mercedes. It's the same way.
Well, thank you.
You're always there, and you're a comfort. It's a comfort thing.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, so we have done conferences all over the country. They've been everywhere. I want to know if you guys have a favorite conference location and why. Do you have one that like stands out for you, and why? Why is that? KG, you go first.
Oh, I don't want to go first. I have to think about all of them. I can't remember.
I know, that was a tough one.
Pass.
Okay. Does anybody want to go first on this one?
So it's kind of like asking what your favorite book or who your favorite author is on any given day and hour. It might be different if they've done
I mean, we did Atlanta 2 years in a row. I really liked Atlanta.
I enjoyed Atlanta.
I would say-
I enjoyed the adventures of Atlanta, at the hookers ball and Boy Scouts. It was always an adventure. But the nearest and dearest to my heart probably will always be New Orleans, because we saw it just before it got desecrated.
Yep.
And also because, like KG said, you walk into the Renaissance and you saw that Chihuly chandelier there, and the artwork in that almost a museum, because it was like a museum. The artwork in that hotel was amazing.
Chop and Joe's. I miss Chop and Joe's. It got hit by Katrina and didn't come back. That was the best burger and fry place I've ever been to in my life. It was like 2 blocks down from the hotel. And I was there every day that I could get away with it. I was there eating at that particular place. I will never forget New Orleans, because you're right, Miss Mercedes. It was absolutely magical and wonderful. But I also am rather attached to the one we had in Minneapolis, which was actually in Brooklyn, not Minneapolis.
Do you have a reason why?
It was like the first time that we had it. Well, it was really one of the first times that we had it kind of, I don't know, for me, it felt like it all finally fell into place. It was the first time after our financial woes that we had actually gotten money. We made a profit. That wasn't much, but we made money. We weren't in debt after the conference. But I got to meet a few more friends, and I got to feel more like the group we were still intimate. We were growing, but we were solid. And it felt like it was on the edge of something that was going to be bigger than we could ever imagine.
That's cool. That's
how it felt for me.
Yeah. Lynn, how about you?
You know, each and every one has been special in its own way and for its own reasons, and not always for the same reason, which is the beauty of it. Every time there's something just a little bit different about it. Nothing can match for me the magic of the first con. You know, it wasn't about the location so much as it was about the vibe. You know, maybe it's a lame word, but it was the vibe of, you know, being on the cusp of something really special for the first time. And then each subsequent one built on that feeling, you know, until it was like a warm hug every time, you know. And so each of them for me is unique. Each of them is special. Some cities I like better than others. But each one, what was that?
We melted in.
We melted in Phoenix, but I lived there at the time. So, you know, I was already melting. You might as well all melt with me.
That's so kind.
I know. If I had to
that one was great because remember the indigenous people came and performed there. And that was amazing.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep. Yeah.
KG, can we come back to you now?
Yeah, I remember now. There were actually 2 that that stick out for me. One, and I can't remember where it was. Somebody will have to tell me. It was where they were having the funeral home conference. That was
in Orlando.
And the other,
That was
to be
Orlando.
serious, I think this was in Chicago. It was where they were also having the cosplay conference.
The anime.
Yes, that was
Oh, I
Chicago.
love that.
The anime, everyone was in
I'm
costume, and I just felt like the entire hotel belonged together. Every one of us was there. We understood. We didn't laugh at them. They didn't laugh at us.
Right.
That was just kind of a good experience from a humanistic point of view. I really enjoyed that.
Well, that'll kind of segue into my next question. And so KG, if that fits the question, then you can skip this one. But I want to know if you have a favorite moment or a favorite memory that sticks in your head after all of this time that you will never forget, something that stays with you that you experienced during one of the conferences. And I'll go first while you guys are thinking. And I feel like KG, you might remember this. I feel like you were there, and I don't remember which hotel it was at, but we were waiting for the elevators, and somewhere in the hotel there was a wedding, and the elevators opened, and there were like 8 very tall men in blue suits and tiny little Ann Bannon standing in the middle of them. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, she had just gotten in the elevator with these guys, and they opened and they looked like a picture. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I just laughed. She was adorable because she's like, as big as my pinky. And the guys were huge. It was funny, but I can't remember which. It was the hotel that had like the shopping mall attached to it. Like, you could just go. It was I think it was one of the Atlanta ones. Now that I think about it.
2006.
Okay, that could be very possible. But it was just so funny. That image has stayed in my head like for years. Patty, how about you? What do you got?
That's cute. Well, I remember doing my damnedest to get your ass to the conference one year.
Dallas. That was Dallas. That was
something. Spending, I don't know, half an hour or more on the phone, talking to 3 or 4 different people at the airlines, trying to get you onto a flight. I kept saying, but
my
she's like,
connection got canceled, right? I think that's what happened. Either did my connection got canceled, I think,
yeah,
or I was late.
Storms somewhere, or
I was late. Yeah.
That was some kind of crazy right there. That was crazy. And for me, the whole time I was the executive director, which felt like 50 years, I don't remember the cons in those times because I was behind the scenes all the time. So I don't remember. I remember all the stuff that went wrong. If you want to know all the down and dirty that went wrong in some of these places, like you getting stuck and not being able to get there, the car forgetting to go get somebody, there was not a car for them, or the hotel messed up or whatever. And that's kind of what I end up remembering. But I can really say that for me, the biggest memory, and it's kind of every single con that I've been to, which is of course all of them, is simply that moment when you see somebody you haven't seen since the last con and you get that hug. You finally come up with your friends and you're getting that hug. You may have emailed them or chatted through the year, but you haven't seen them physically, and you get that first hug, and it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing to finally see these people. And I'm with Callmaker. I don't want to be at the cry and buy at the end of the conference either. I want to go somewhere else. I don't want people to know I've left because I can't take that part of it. But the best part is wandering through the hotel and going, it's the lobby. Who's here? Who do I see? Do I know any of these people? You look at the people on how they're dressed, and you're like, that's one of us. So you maybe go over there to see if it's your friend or make a new friend.
Or something when the con is over and everybody's gone. It's like you were in paradise and then you woke up and there's no more paradise. It's crazy.
It's quite a downer.
Marcy, how about you? Do you have a favorite moment? What do you want?
I got a whole lot of favorite moments, but one would think my most memorable one, but then it's not the only time I ever showed up without clothes, right, KG? It was when I was coming from Africa and, coming to Minneapolis by way of New York, and they lost all my luggage. So I had to show up with no clothes and no anything. That happened to me, I think, in Palm Beach, too. I don't know how my suitcase ended up not in the car. But so many memorable moments, meeting people that I had never heard of before, but who had paved the way and then I get to meet them and, know them. That's the thing. I get to know them on a level. At least I feel like I know them, and I feel like I can call a lot of them friends, and that is what makes each one very special for me. And like Patty said, getting that first hug.
That first hug is something else, right?
Yeah.
Lynn, do you have a favorite memory?
I've got so many, and even at my age, my memory sometimes works. But I will say, some of the funniest things that happened didn't happen directly at the con, but around the con. And perhaps for me, the funniest was we were trying to figure out how to go out to dinner. It was a whole bunch of people, and we had too many people and too few cars. And so at first, someone had the bright idea to use me as the hood ornament. But then they decided that even better yet, they would just open the skylight and stick me out, which they did.
Those are called sunroofs, Lynn. That's a sunroof.
Well, whatever the hell it is. It was one of those. So I rode through the streets of Dallas like this. Out of the moonroof. I think it was a moonroof, not a sun. Whatever the hell it was, there I was with my head hanging out and people honking and waving back, So, yeah.
It's great.
KG, what about you? You got a favorite moment?
I was thinking that what Patty was talking about with greeting people for the very first time, it's also fun when you get off the plane and you go to baggage claim and then you go get on the shuttle bus and you start seeing these familiar faces at the airport. That's very exciting. My favorite memory, though, I have to say, thinking back through all the years of our conferences, was Ann Bannon's keynote address.
Oh my God.
That still resonates with me. Her story was so powerful.
Yeah.
To hear her talk about writing in the closet, I mean, literally in the closet with her husband in the next room. And she's writing lesbian stories that speak to all of us, that went out there and saved lives of people. When people were able to say, oh my gosh, there are people like me in these books. And her story was just jaw-dropping, fascinating. And to have her as a trailblazer for this organization and to have her come and address us that way, to me, that shows something really important about our organization, that we have arrived. Mm-hmm. We have arrived. We have the stamp of approval from the one who started it for us.
Right.
So if I can amend what I said, thank you, KG, because you brought something back up. The biggest thrill that I'm going to cry. The biggest thrill I've ever had was Ann Bannon and you, Georgia, handing me the Ann Bannon Award. To be handed that award by Ann Bannon was just, there's nothing that will, I think, ever top that in my lifetime.
That is pretty amazing.
Yep.
That is pretty amazing. All right, let's talk about how the GCLS has changed through the years. As a member for 17 years, all of you, what have you seen from beginning to now? How have we changed? How have we adjusted? And then we'll go into, there's a question in the Q&A box that I've been sitting on because it's also one of my questions. So we'll get to that in a minute. But tell me how the GCLS has changed through the years to you. What have you personally observed? Patty, why don't you go first on this one?
Growth would be the very first thing that would come to mind, because when I joined, there was probably only 10 or 15 people at the time in May of 2004. And by our first con, we had 100 people, and then we kind of stayed steady at around 120, 130 people, maybe 200. And as the years have gone on, what are we now, almost 600 strong? I think so, between 600 and 700 it fluctuates.
I think at the last count.
Is it 750? Oh, God, see? Okay, you can't keep track of these things. But that's the one major thing that I would take note in, is that we've grown exponentially, in my opinion. And also once we became a 501c3 official nonprofit organization, it felt like we weren't just a group of people meeting every year to talk about writing. It felt like we were suddenly legitimate. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it gave us a mark of legitimacy that says we are real, we're here, and we actually mean business, and we're serious about what we talk about. We're serious about what we're doing. And over the years, as the Goldies have grown and the conference has grown, I just feel that it's kind of exciting that we are suddenly important. We are legitimate, and people are seeing that. And that's, for me, that part of it is pretty important.
Awesome. KG, how about you? What have you seen? What changes have you seen in the past 17 years?
Well, I think perhaps the biggest change that I've noticed is that over the years, more and more of our members and attendees began to write. And at some point, critical mass shifted in our organization, and we had more writers than readers, I think, in our group. So in that sense, it made our organization a professional organization, but at the same time, it lays a challenge for us, I think, to reach out to make sure that we're engaging readers. We want readers in our organization. We want to sit down at an autograph session and have people walking around to get autographs instead of everyone sitting there signing books.
For each other.
I want to be sure that we didn't along the way make readers feel that they weren't important to our organization, that our organization had become just for writers. I want us to, as a group, go forward and corral these readers and bring them back into our organization and make sure we're giving them what they want.
Lynn, what changes have you seen in your time with the GCLS?
So many that it's hard to sit here and just, give you a little snapshot. But what I would say is yes to what KG said. The level of education that is provided, for instance, the Writing Academy and all of the tools that we are making available, and the level of expertise has grown and expanded, which is really wonderful to see. But without readers, what are we writing for? So KG is right. What we want to do is bring back in more readers who are, looking for that kind of experience with us. So I've seen an evolution. It's sort of an incremental evolution, not just of numbers, but of depth of commitment, I guess I would say, and professionalism. And that is, great to see. And, it's wonderful to watch this organization evolve as our society is evolving and as our needs evolve. And to me, that's the most exciting thing going forward is to be part of this, having been part at the beginning and to be part now of, helping to shepherd in the next generation, essentially the next iteration. And I think that's kind of where we are.
Mercedes, how about you? As someone who started as a reader and then kind of morphed into writing, what have you seen? What changes have you seen over the past 17 years? What have you observed?
I have observed the organization's ability to be a living organism, to adapt and change and grow as needed and not fester and die, because I think maybe for 1 or 2 years there, we might have been worried about that. It reminds me, my grandmother would say there's nothing new under the sun. And basically there's nothing new in GCLS except that we have identified things more succinctly, I suppose. There was always trans there. There were always men there. There were always women who were married and who wrote lesbian literature. There was always women who love women, lesbians, all of that. The space was created to provide an avenue for the books and for recognition, which is entirely different from the individuals, but all those individuals were welcome. I remember that fighter guy came and freaked everybody. Was that Greg, I think, with his thing he did on murder, and oh my gosh! But it was fun.
Yeah.
And I can think of several trans members that we have had since the beginning. So I appreciate that they were there and they stuck with this. And if any of them felt a particular way, I guess I have one of those faces where people feel like they can come up and talk to you. Imagine that. But, they would express, which is probably why I ended up being a director of membership and helping create the Convergence, because people needed that avenue to be able to speak out if they felt, maybe things were becoming too cliquish or this, that, or the other. And one thing about those cliquish things, I don't think that we are necessarily cliquish as an order. I think what happens is this is an opportunity, or was in the beginning, for a lot of the publishing houses to actually get together with the authors and maybe even see them for the first time. So they would have their side meetings and what have you, which is fine. I mean, that's a part of the conference, meeting the needs of the writer, the publisher, and the reader, and everybody in the spectrum. So I have enjoyed watching the organization grow and continue to thrive. And though I am getting kind of gray there, and you guys got me reading the award for historical fiction, romance. I am glad that there's still young blood coming and will hopefully continue to come to the organization. So the adaptability I love.
Mercedes, I applaud your Convergence. That was such a success. I love going to the conference and being able to identify those people who are there for the very first time so I can meet them.
Yeah. They loved it too. Yeah. And it made everybody, I think, more comfortable in their own skin and in their ability to, yes, I fangirl, and yes, she was an author, but she's also a person, and, don't catch her in the middle of something, but, feel free to interact with anyone who's in this space, because we're all in this space for the same reason.
Yeah, that was a piece of brilliance, Mercedes. That was a piece of brilliance, the Convergence.
Thank you.
Mercedes, I don't know if you can see in the chat bar, but Finn Burnett is saying that you are a major reason that their first con was wonderful, because they were so scared and you made it so safe. So there you go.
Gonna try to make me cry.
That's very cool.
Is that why you disappeared?
Yeah, she left.
I'm here.
Hi.
Okay, so before I continue on this, there's a quick question in the Q&A box that I think maybe Patty, can you help with this? How did the name Golden Crown come about? Because I don't know, and I don't know if anyone else would.
Because Kathy Bryrose was totally into knights and kings and queens and swords and medieval stuff. So that's why it came to be Golden Crown.
So not complex at all, just
not complex at all. It's just simple. Yes, exactly. It was
I had no idea.
simplistic. Yeah, there you go.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I have a question, and there's also one in the Q&A that kind of are very similar. So as we go on, how do we, as the GCLS, as this organization, how do we continue to move forward in this crazy fast changing world? How do we expand our membership and stay relevant? Because that's kind of hard. Things are moving so quickly and changing so fast. And I think it's really easy to get left in the dust. How do we keep ourselves relevant? Do you guys have suggestions for that? Lynn?
Yeah. I mean, for one thing, we have to keep dialogue, keep talking, keep communicating with each other, keep exploring, keep learning, especially keep learning. And don't, it's easy to close off and get defensive. It's harder to open up and be expansive. But being open and expansive is exactly what we need to do at this moment. This is the moment where we stop talking and start listening. And as we listen, we incorporate those ideas into what we're already doing. We're not reinventing the wheel here. What we're doing is just making a bigger wheel, I don't want to talk about pie because I'm hungry. So I'm not going to talk about it. Then you'll hear my stomach rumbling and it'll just get downhill from here. Chocolate, anybody got chocolate? But, but my point is, I think this is a great time to listen and it's a great time to learn. We may not have had a lot of the language that exists today, but it doesn't mean that we didn't have a lot of the same inclinations and ideas about what community is. And there are new notions and everything is changing. And I think that is the most exciting thing. If you can embrace change and understand that it makes us stronger, then we're all going to benefit from that. Mm-hmm. And, if you don't evolve, you die as a species, right? So if we don't evolve as an organization and as authors and as writers, because I saw that question in the Q&A somewhere, then we cease to be relevant. And this is such an important organization. I think that it behooves us to do all those things. And that's what I see happening. And it makes me really, really happy.
Mm-hmm. KG, how do we expand and how do we stay relevant?
I think that a few years ago, the publishers and booksellers sort of decided that rather urgently they needed to start appealing to younger readers. And as just almost a monolith, we did. We began to reach out to younger readers. We began to attract younger writers. We began bringing younger writers into our writing academies and nurturing them and mentoring them. And Golden Crown has now reached a point where I would guess that our average age has probably dropped 20 years since we first, well, maybe that's because I'm 20 years older. Could that be right?
Maybe it stayed the same.
But we definitely do have a younger membership now than we did before. And what we're also seeing, to our great credit, is that a lot of these younger people are stepping up and taking over the leadership roles of the organization. Because let's face it, I'm too tired. I'm old. I'm gonna use all my energy on writing and let someone else take on the heavy lifting. And I appreciate that so many of our younger members are stepping up to do that. And when that happens, there's just a natural process of evolution in the organization, that when newer, younger ideas come in and start to gain traction, then the organization changes. Mm-hmm. And here I am sitting up here and saying, thank you for doing all of that. Thank you for handling all of this for me so that I can just show up at the conference. I can sit on a panel. Mm-hmm. and not have to kind of do all the arranging and do all of the meetings and all of the marketing and all the reaching out. I mean, you guys are doing a great job. Mm-hmm. And thanks for bringing me along on your ride. Thanks for letting me stay with you.
Patty, what do you think?
I will say that I'm with KG, that I'm now very happy that I'm sitting there at the panels and not making the panels happen.
That you're not the woman behind the curtain anymore?
I'm not the woman behind the curtain anymore. I'm not the great and wondrous Oz. I think that going forward, one of our biggest needs is being addressed by the group. And that is that we need to be more diverse in not just our age groups, but the people that we are expanding towards. You know, we have to be known by different sectors of society. We're very white. We're very middle-aged white women, and we really need to have more people out there that are younger and that are of different ethnics and ethnicities and different cultures and different anything we can get. And we need to find a way to appeal to all these people. And that's not the most, that's not the easiest job in the world, but we need to get the GCLS known in places that we've never tried to get into before. And the problem is trying to figure out where those places are and how we get in. But I'd like to see GCLS, and I'd like to see that they are moving towards making our group more diverse and more, making it a group that people of diversity want to come to, because honestly, you're not going to go to a conference if you don't see people like you. Right? You don't want to be in a group that you don't see some similarities with some of the people. And we're making great strides towards that. But I think that that's probably one of the most important things, because like KG was saying, we need people that are young, because I'm too tired for this crap. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm too tired. But we also need more diversity. And that, I think, will also bring in more youth and everything. But they are doing very well going towards that step.
Okay. All right. So we've got 2 minutes left. So Mercedes, I want to start with you. What would you say to someone who's thinking about joining the GCLS, but is a little bit hesitant?
Do it, do it, do it.
Why?
You won't regret it. There is something to be had for everyone. You'll
Lynn, how
find
about
your
you?
tribe.
Yeah. Lynn?
It's the largest family you'll ever find, and the most accepting and most welcoming. And if you are one of those people who feels like you're on the outside looking in, I promise you, you join this organization and you'll be on the inside staying in.
I love that. That's nice. Patty, how about you?
Just made it up because I make shit up for a living.
That's very nice of you, Lynn. I would say to them that GCLS is a wonderful organization where you will learn more about writing and the lesbian literature than you ever thought you would learn before. And if you come to the conference, I'll introduce you to everyone.
Perfect. And KG, take us home.
I would say that I will pay your first year's membership if you join us.
Look at that. You heard it here, folks. That's awesome. We are out of time. Thank you so much. This wonderful panel. This was a lot of fun. If I didn't get to your questions, I apologize, but we just had a lot to say. Thanks to everybody who came. The chat bar was rolling like crazy. It was awesome. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Saturday. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Georgia, for moderating.
Thanks, Georgie. You did a great job.
Bywater Books for sponsoring.
Good to see everyone. Good to see everyone.
There you go.
Thank you all
guys.
Everyone.
Thank you all for joining us. Leaving group now.
Yes, leaving group now. Bye-bye.